The program that you're about to hear contains material that may be offensive to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Go ahead. Make my day.
2, 1, 0.
Hello and welcome to Right and Writer, the official podcast of the Washington Free Beacon. I'm your host, Elizabeth Harrington. You can follow me on Twitter at LizWFB. The Free Beacon podcast is available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Please subscribe, tell your friends, and leave a review. Joining me from the right today is Free Beacon Editor-in-Chief Matthew Continetti. You may remember him from such mainstream media programs as The Daily Briefing with Dana Perino and Washington Journal. You can follow him on Twitter at Continetti. Hello, Matt.
Hi, Liz.
And further to Matt's right is Free Beacon President Aaron Harrison, who has submitted his application to run the Southern Poverty Law Center. We're not exactly sure what he does around the office, but he signs the checks, and that's good enough for us. Hello, Harrison.
I'm told the first round of interviews will be happening next week. And if
Good
I make it
best
through
of
there,
luck to you.
Yeah, we will maybe.
We'll miss you.
We'll start a change.org petition to support my candidacy for that job.
First on Right and Writer, President Trump will veto his first bill as president after a dozen Senate Republicans joined Democrats to block the president's declaration of a national emergency to secure funds to build the border wall. The 59-41 vote is not veto-proof, meaning the battle will continue in the courts. But is there an emergency on the border? Let's ask NPR, which says a surge in migrant asylum seekers is overwhelming the system. Or the New York Times, which says the border is at a breaking point as more than 76,000 unauthorized migrants cross in a month. Or the Washington Post, which says a crisis has hit the border but generates little urgency. Matt, what say you?
I think there are two issues here. One is the crisis on the border. And there is a crisis. There's no question about it. It's the change in the nature of the migrants from single men looking for work to now families and unaccompanied minors looking for refuge. Look at the spike in apprehensions. Look at the drug trade. Talk to people who have visited the border. There's a crisis. The second issue is, does the president have the authority under the Constitution to repurpose the money that Congress has appropriated to the Pentagon but not obligated for a specific project to go to the wall? That's a difficult issue, but one of the reasons it's a difficult issue is Congress delegated the authority to the president 40 years ago to declare a national emergency. There are over 24 ongoing national emergencies.
Right.
So you can debate, and you can have a reasonable disagreement, I think, about whether Trump did the right thing. What you can't do is deny that there's an emergency on the border and vote against the president whilst also saying, if the courts uphold his authority, we're going to use the same power
Right.
to
Take all the guns away.
Take guns away or repurpose money to fight climate change. That's being intellectually dishonest. The reason to oppose this is because of the Constitution and your view of the Constitution. That's a legitimate reason, or an intellectually honest reason, to oppose him. Saying, well, we don't like what you're doing, Trump, but we hope that you get a pass from the courts because we want to do it for other things, is being disingenuous.
Harrison, what do you make of the Republicans in the Senate joining the Dems?
This is a story about nothing. Okay,
Yeah.
this is classic. We've seen this throughout history. The legislative branch is always fighting with the judicial branch or with the executive branch over who controls the country. We had periods where the legislature was dominant. We've had mostly recent history where the executive branch is more dominant. You know where I come down on this side of I come down on the president's side of the fence on this
Really?
one. I am a believer in a strong executive, ladies and gentlemen. If that is anything, that is my view of the Constitution.
What if Trump were Speaker of the House? Would your view change?
Well,
why would he take a demotion? That doesn't even make sense.
I know, hypothetical.
Yeah, hypothetical. It's just like, no, that will never happen. Maybe he can take over. Maybe he could declare the Congress itself a national emergency and replace the
He could
Speaker of the
probably
House
do-
with somebody that is a little
He
more
could probably
friendly.
do both jobs at once. I mean, he
Well,
works
of
so hard.
course he could.
Yeah.
He has plenty of extra time in which to not only write the laws, but enforce the laws. And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about enforcing the laws of this country that prior executives have refused to do. The fact is that this emergency has been in existence in this country for over 30 years. It has taken a leader like President Donald J. Trump to declare the emergency. So all I'm saying here is this is a story about nothing. Who cares what the legislature says here? Trump can do this no matter what. He can do this if he wants to, and he should. Build the wall, Mr. President. Declare the funds, take them from one pile, put them in the wall pile, and
Yeah.
build the damn wall and protect this country.
Up next, the media has a thrill up its leg again because Rob O'Rourke, captain of the crew team, former male nanny, and extensive journal writer, has changed his mind and will run for president. The failed Senate candidate has plenty of experience on the city council and playing in his punk rock band. Did we mention he's a Gen Xer? Beto's announcement came on the heels of a totally impartial Vanity Fair profile with an Annie Leibovitz photo spread of barefoot Beto on the dusty roads of Texas, pronouncing to the world, "Man, I'm just born to be in it." Vanity Fair noted Beto's near mystical powers and the moment his wife, quote, first witnessed the power of his gift, which is apparently standing on coffeehouse tables while almost taking someone out with his hand movements. The launch is going so well, he's already compared fighting climate change to fighting the Nazis on the beaches of Normandy. But Harrison, a woman could never get away with his born to be in it comment.
A woman would never get this type of hype over this dude with no experience and who has no real story to tell other than this. Like it's kind of like the way I would describe him is like he is like a copy of a copy of a copy. If the original was Barack Obama, you end up eventually with Beto, who has no story to tell, where he has just been meandering and walking the earth, playing in grunge rock bands, doing probably a lot of drugs. I'm just assuming that, based on the way he acts and speaks nowadays. So look, Beto, I'm just not really afraid of Beto here. Maybe that's just ignorance on my part. Maybe I should be.
I don't get it either.
Because I'm giving the Democrats too much credit for wanting somebody who can actually tell a story, who can elucidate policies that are going to solve problems in this country. I don't believe Beto has really a whole lot of those characteristics. Obama, for all of his misguided philosophy in how to execute the laws of this country, you could say, I mean, the guy was a great salesman. He conned over
Salesman for
60,
himself.
he conned nearly 80
Not
million
really for
people
Obamacare.
2 different times to vote for him. Yeah, right. So look, Beto, this is the boomlet. The Beta the billionaire is going to give it a good shot. It seems like has unlimited funds with which to support his campaign via his billionaire father-in-law, who has not hesitated in the past to support his political endeavors. So I think that Beta is probably a top-tier Democrat. I just don't think that he is going to make it all the way.
Matt.
The question is why the Obama people seem to like him. I mean, the Pod Save America bros are basically, unofficial advisors to his campaign at this point. And I think that speaks to a real reluctance on the Obama people to embrace Joe Biden, and a fear that Biden has too long a track record of compromise with Republicans and also is too old to be a successful nominee for the Democrats in 2020. So Beto threatens Biden, but he also threatens Sanders. And with Sanders, the threat is demographic, because Sanders has a lot of support among young people.
Yes.
And in 2018, Beto did pretty well among young people in Texas. So there's a kind of a ideological threat to Biden and a demographic threat to Sanders. So what I would expect then is for everyone to gang up on Beto, right, because he threatens the 2 frontrunners, and he's getting all of the free media which what is it now, 58 other contestants so desperately need.
Well, Matt hit on something that's very important that I think people need to really pay attention when Joe Biden decides to jump into this thing. If he does. I still have my doubts.
Should we use the word jump? Can you
shuffle. Let's say shuffle.
Right.
Shuffle on in. On into the pool.
He'll feel his way in.
Yeah. He will. He's very touchy.
He's a hands-on kind of guy.
He is a hands-on type of candidate. But Matt mentioned that the Obama acolytes, the worshipers in the Church of Obama.
They always need a new
pod save brosis
secular
out
savior.
there. Yes, this is what they are looking for, but there is a reason that they don't go to Biden, who you would think, if you wanted Obama's legacy to continue into the 21st century, that you would be supporting the guy he thought was most qualified to take over the office of the presidency.
But no one thinks that,
Exactly.
that he thought that.
Exactly. Because what
He was stuck with Biden.
there's a term that says falls down, okay? And Obama at the very top of the pyramid of power, his view of everybody else in that administration percolated down to the people that he hired to follow his orders. They knew that Obama never respected Biden, therefore they don't respect Biden, and they will never respect Biden.
Can I just defend Joe Biden for a second?
Feel free.
Because they don't like Joe Biden because Joe Biden, as you said earlier in the week, likes to make deals and is not a progressive ideologue.
I think that's the base.
And is an internationalist, unlike Obama. Who hated the foreign policy blob, right? But Biden is a foreign policy establishment guy. Right. And the only reason he was put on the ticket and Obama was stuck with him for 8 years was the foreign policy experience, because he had to choose his nominee right after Russia invaded Georgia. He wanted Kane. He wanted Kane. He wanted someone who was
everybody
much more,
want Tim Kaine?
Right. Well, right. Maybe it worked out better. But I'm just saying that in the Obama,
there really weren't a lot of options back then, though. We should say,
Obama
for Democrats,
skepticism toward Biden is actually an argument for his electability.
Well,
it's an argument for his electability.
Yeah,
but it also leads to the paradox, like Michael Tomasky, I thought, really smartly pointed out this week in the Times. The Biden paradox is that the one man who can beat Trump is least likely to get the nomination.
Yeah, well, I think you're right, and I do want to just draw a distinction between the Democratic Party elite, which I would throw the podcast bros in there. They are the ones that I am saying don't respect Biden, and it's the base of the Democratic Party that I think will reject him ultimately because of what you said, which is that he is seen as the grand compromiser.
All right, up next, Nancy Pelosi says she's always been crazy and has always believed the voting age should be lowered to 16. In a totally non-creepy way, Pelosi explained she thinks it's, quote, really important to capture kids when they're in high school. Matt, this is the best argument I've heard since a CNN contributor said his 16-year-old son should vote because he watches John Oliver every week.
Where are they headed? Just in the past week, we've got lowering the age to 16. We've got court packing. We've got reparations has been passed a couple of weeks. We've got Green New Deal, eliminate private insurance. I mean, the party has just moved so far left. It's also such a transparently obvious
lie.
No, play for votes. They
obviously
this comes out.
Remember but there's no way she's always believed.
Remember
this.
how I was bemoaning the poll and Axios on Monday?
Yeah.
How liberal Generation Z is. Oh, now that same week, Stacey Abrams and Pelosi are saying lower it now. It's the joke.
Yeah, it's obviously for votes.
Well, somebody passed me a very important op-ed in the New York Times today. It's written by a 9-year-old boy who is very upset with us.
What about equal rights for the 9-year-old?
About climate change.
Oh, right. No.
And that's the thing.
You need to listen to
why can't we lower it to 9?
Needs to. They're the ones that are most
age
affected.
For the sex change also.
That's where it ends. Well, they're also the ones that this may shock a lot of people that are also most influenced by their parental units in their house. So when little Johnny writes his
you don't think 16-year-olds are influenced by their parents?
I think actually, you know what? That gives me an idea. Perhaps they're the ones that are going to rebel against their liberal parents
Oh, no.
Just to
I don't think
them
that's
off.
ever going to happen.
Think about how
They'll
many
rebel
people
from the lib parents
Right.
and
They
become
become
communists.
radicals. That's actually how it
Gosh,
happens.
they go the other way.
Yeah.
Well, this is a bad idea all around. It sounds like. No, I
You
do-
either rebel from your parents and become a radical, or you rebel from your generation and become a conservative.
Right.
conservatism it gets us all eventually. I
Oh,
think the
yeah.
older you get, there's some holdouts, but there's a reason that my favorite.
But that's the problem with prolonged adolescence. Like, none of these kids get a real job till they're like 40.
That's
now.
true, but you get to live in your parents' that's post college life. As you move back in with your parents into the basement, live off their health care, live off the rent, while you're just getting adjusted to the real world.
Right. All right, now it's time to check back in with Right and Writer's chief legal analyst, Victorino Mattis. Hello, Vic.
Hello, Liz.
I
God, yes.
hear you have some news.
Yes, my legal update today is a real doozy. Okay, I'd like to start with some breaking news first, which is the Hallmark Channel has cut ties with Lori Loughlin, which means there's not going to be a Homegrown Christmas Part 2. I know you were hoping for that.
I was. This whole thing might have been a sinister attack on the Hallmark Channel.
Yes,
the only wholesome thing we
They're
have
getting
left.
crushed. That's half the movies there is our Lori Loughlin movies. Okay, so
I hate to break it
If
to
they
you.
go after Cameron Bure next, this is a conspiracy.
mystery garage sale also over. Yes, Harrison.
I just hate to break it to you, but I've also just been informed that Lori Loughlin has been fired from Fuller House.
I think we saw that one coming. Okay, so by now, all of you know about Varsity Blues, not the football movie with Ali Larter covered in whipped cream.
Legendary.
Yes.
Oh,
That
that's
is
the part
a-
you remember.
Yeah.
That is a top 5 all-time Harrison
Yes,
movie.
also known as the Aaron Harrison story. Very
Somehow
good.
that's not surprising.
Okay, not surprised. I'm talking about Operation Varsity Blues, the FBI sting operation that led to a massive federal indictment involving very rich parents paying a supposedly charitable foundation anywhere from 5 to 7 figures to get their child into a prestigious school, Yale, Stanford, Georgetown, USC. It's called the Key Worldwide Foundation, which kind of reminded me of the Human Fund from Seinfeld. And it's like that. And Rick Singer was the guy who was running it. And so what you did was you paid Rick, or you donated a certain amount to have your child's SAT or ACT score bumped up, right? So this involves paying off proctors and other test takers. And then you take the test, and then they change the wrong answers to the right ones to a certain extent, depending on how far you want to go. But you can go from 1,100 to 1,500. But that is no guarantee, as you know, that you'll get into a school just with high grades. And there's no refund from Key Worldwide. So the next step is to pay a lot more for a college coach to get involved. And you got to pay him off or her off. And that coach can say your kid is being recruited for a sport, even if the kid never played the sport. So there's the water polo kid from the Buckley School with that didn't have a water polo team.
Wait, the school didn't even have a team?
Buckley did not have a water polo team. And then you have the pole vaulter, McGlashan, who never pole vaulted, so they photoshopped his face on the athlete's body. Between 2011 and 2018, Rick Singer made $27 million. Then the feds the feds got tipped off, and then they started busting coaches and turning them into cooperating witnesses. And then Rick Singer himself became a cooperating witness, and he was wearing a wire. And the next thing you know, you have that massive federal indictment, 50 people, 9 college coaches, 3 test takers, 33 parents, including the former Fuller House actress Lori Loughlin and Desperate Housewives actress Felicity Huffman. The charges range from conspiracy to commit mail fraud to bribery and racketeering. The big crime, if you will, for the parents, I think, is the tax deduction. So normally, you get a charitable tax deduction because you're giving money to something that you're not getting anything tangible in return, right? You give money to the Red Cross or wherever. These people were definitely getting something tangible in return. And on top of that, they took the deduction. That's fraud. So people have been asking, will Lori Loughlin and Felicity Huffman go to jail? I don't know, but as a lawyer tells me, the U.S. Attorney's Office doesn't bring cases like this, so people won't go to jail, right? So we'll see. But my question is why, right? Did Lori Loughlin really need to pay $500,000 for her daughters to go to USC as recruits on the crew team? They're already influencers, Matt. You talked about it in your column.
Said daughter has 1.3 million followers
yes.
on
Okay.
Instagram.
Also,
and formerly had a Sephora sponsorship.
and formerly Sephora. As an aside, if I were an admissions officer at USC and interviewed Olivia J. Giannulli, right, I would probably...
Full ride.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why you're not an admissions
That's why I'm not.
officer.
Yeah,
I think
Harrison and I would be offering
I
early
think
action.
That's
is
why
what
you're
you call it.
forbidden from going on certain campuses.
That's an unrelated. That's not connected to this story, man. I don't have to bring that up. Okay, so as you mentioned, Aaron, Sephora has cut ties with Olivia. Now both she and her sister Isabella will not be returning to USC for fear of getting viciously bullied. It's very sad. I think they should make a movie about it on the Hallmark Channel. Back to you.
Thank you, Vic.
You know, this whole story really begs the question as to how necessary college education is in this country at this point.
It's completely unnecessary.
Look at Olivia Jade Laughlin, or no, Olivia Jade Massimo, right? Isn't
Massimo Giannulli's daughter?
He lost his Target line too.
Well, think about this. She was already making a significant income because of her social media following. The world's youngest billionaire, according to Forbes, barely even I'm not even sure has a high school education, and I'm talking about Kylie Jenner. Mark Zuckerberg dropped out of Harvard.
Well,
The richest people,
Bill Gates,
the richest people in the world don't have a college education. What is the point? Why are you dropping $500,000 to get your kids, as to Olivia Jade, what she said, just to go party?
Yeah. And well, now she's going to need something to fall back on.
Look,
They've ruined her.
This
whole industry.
Rick Singer, by the way, man of the year. What a scam. This was brilliant from top to bottom. The ultimate manipulator of the elites.
You're just saying that because he went to your college.
Yes, that's true. Yes. Well, we both majored in manipulation and domination of the elites in this country. That was we got a BA in that.
Trinity.
And yeah, Trinity in Texas. Everybody, let's go Tigers. Look, if you can't get into the Ivy Leagues, you might as well take full advantage of them in your professional life. So way to go, Rick Singer, man of the year finalist.
All right, up first in our culture round, people who walk on the escalator actually slow everyone down, according to a fake news article published in Quartz. Any decent person knows that those who want to stand on the escalator stand to the right to let us walkers pass them on the left. But Quartz questions whether 2 lanes of pedestrian traffic on an escalator actually help you reach your destination more quickly, and says both lanes should be for standing. One study reported 74.9% of people choose to stand on the escalator instead of walking. And engineers say 2 lanes force pedestrians to make more decisions, like, should I speed up, slow down, pass this person, just wait? Which slows everyone down in the process. Quote, should an entire lane of the escalator be left open for a small, impatient proportion of the crowd, Quartz asks. Matt, obviously the answer is yes.
I went to Japan in December, and I was fascinated because, they drive on the other side of the street in Japan. They're like England. And yet they also reverse the lanes on the escalators.
Oh.
So that is,
so you're walking on the right.
Yes, exactly. If you stand on a Japanese escalator, you stand on the left and walk on the right. And yet, if you stand in an American escalator, you stand on the right and walk on the left. I thought, how interesting, and how does that type of cultural choice get made?
Where does it start?
Where does it start? And yet, it also mirrors the way that they drive.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's like the CVS
why don't we
downstairs.
devote more research to those questions I just laid out, than engaging in this ridiculous idea that people need to just stand on both lanes, because that makes no sense.
No, how would that speed it up?
It's also going to lead to violence,
right?
Because there are people going to be pushing. They're going to get into fights.
Yeah, this is fake science. This is totally fake.
The fate of the world changed when Ta-Nehisi Coates was once like brushed off an escalator. Right. So just think what will happen.
Right.
If we insist on standing still and blocking any means of walking on the escalator.
And this can't be good for the obesity epidemic, Harrison.
Well, I think this is an engineering failure on our part. I kind of believe this study, and I'll tell you why. Because there are living examples at the train stations in this country, which is one of the biggest collection of disgusting mass humanity in one concentrated place.
True.
That somehow, when you see all of these barely human people lining up to get onto the trains, at Penn Station in New York or here at Union
Station's
Station in
gross.
D.C., there is a single person escalator that takes you down
I know.
to the train.
Can't walk.
There is no,
Because everyone has their bag.
I mean, you
and,
can if there's nobody in front of you. You have to be first in line.
No, but yeah.
But also notice the efficiency. That cesspool of humanity inside of 3 or 4 minutes disappears. So there is something to this, and I just think that by designing double wide escalators, they are the ones that screwed this whole thing up. Single wides. That's the way to go. Multiple
That's an
single wide
interesting
escalators.
point.
Interesting theory.
All right, up next, the end of the Twitter ratio is near as the company is testing a new prototype for the social media platform that hides the number of likes, replies, and retweets, saving the Julia Eoffs of the world from shame. However, the number of retweets and comments would not be removed altogether, but users would be forced to make an extra click in order to see who has been ratioed. Twitter's head of consumer product, Jack Coleman, said the change is designed to make conversation on Twitter a bit friendlier and to improve the health of the conversations. Harrison, you of course don't know how Twitter works at all, but wouldn't a better way to improve discourse be if you joined Twitter?
Listen, it's a great question, Liz. But much like other social media and podcast media, influencers, I don't do anything unless I get paid.
Right.
So
like Olivia Jade.
If somebody out there, yes, I am an influencer. If somebody wants to bring my voice of influence to the platform of Twitter, I am open for business. Get at me in the DMs. Get at me on the email. Call into this podcast the next time that you're listening. I am open for business. I want the sponsorship. I believe that my voice of influence can be valuable to many corporations throughout this country and also just other individuals that may just want to get something off their chest and have it come out through a very influential voice like myself.
Matt, what do you think of is this a great idea?
No. The ratio is like half the fun of Twitter.
Exactly. It shows you what a bad tweet is.
Yeah. No, exactly. Well, it shows you what
they're trying to
opinions
get
are
rid
not.
of shame in society.
Right. It shows you what
Which
opinions
is
are
a bad
not
thing.
allowed. The worst
Right.
opinions.
Right.
Those are the ones. I love the ratio. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah. It's the only fun thing on this stupid website.
But if they want to start the conversation, make the conversations easier, then they're just getting away. You would still be able to see the number of replies, but you won't be able to see the number of retweets
really,
and likes.
it's just you have to click once more.
That
to
I don't
see
like
it.
because the only way now as a writer to have any sense that people are reading your things are looking at the retweets.
I know.
It's the only way. It used to be you could get letters or email. That all disappeared. The only way now, and it's not even, I think, a representative way, because Twitter is a universe on its own. But the only way I can see if people like something is to look at the retweets.
Well, I think what you really got to do is you got to change your profile pic to a sexy babe. Like cleavage and hotness. That is what drives followers on Twitter.
You're saying I would get more followers
I need
if
to
my
change my
profile
pic.
pic was of
That's
Olivia
my
Jade.
problem.
Think about it. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so long as it's not copyrighted, if you change your Twitter profile of that, people will retweet it to see the picture.
My goal, I'm getting close to 25,000.
Do it. Do it. I guarantee you we will be there
Sonny's
before
rolling
closing.
his
Watch
eyes.
out, world.
Sonny's rolling his eyes at me because he's so far ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I
Thumbs up.
think you got to just do like
But
maybe,
I think Olivia Jade would put me over at the top.
what if, and here's
I'm
another
100 away.
Here's another idea. You retweet an Instagram or Twitter influencer of the day.
I
And-
choose the influencer.
Yes, because that's why they follow you, is to see who your influencer is going to be. And if you were to tweet an influencer like Olivia Jade or like a Lindsay Palis.
I have another question
or-
about Twitter.
Yes.
How do you notice when people use Twitter to ask questions? Like,
Oh.
what's your favorite movie? Does that work? Do people respond? You're saying yes, it does?
Yeah, that's Sonny's.
People want to respond and say what? I have a feeling that if I ask that question, it's just going to be a hatred and invective hurled at me.
Yeah,
In
probably.
the- I know.
But don't worry about it
So
because
I
you're not
don't-
getting ratioed anymore.
Shut up, nerd.
But there we go. Now you don't get ratioed anymore. So
When are you going to get deployed, Chicken Hawk? You know? I just asked what movie you like.
All right, finally, chickens pecked an intruder fox to death in France. There was a herd instinct, and they attacked him with their beaks, according to BBC News, which notes the body of the fox was found the next day in the corner of the coop. Live Science notes that chickens, like all birds, are the descendants of dinosaurs, and this particular coop held 3,000 hens. Matt, the animal uprising is upon us. Are you prepared?
No, I'm not, because when courts start granting rights to animals, the whole world is going to change.
They did have a right to defend their coop, right?
Yeah, I was just reading this essay in the Washington Post about the endless, expansion of liberalism to include more and more and more minorities, and we're seeing that with trans, right? Which is less than 1% of the population. And then but eventually the next revolution will be the animal one, where it's all of a sudden, we'll have to go like Cory Booker and become vegan.
Right. We need rights for Beto's dog.
Well,
right?
this is what
Save him from.
And the children rights thing, it's fascinating too. Because of so what's interesting is you have these kids who are now rebelling against their parents because the parents are anti-vax, right?
Right.
Which I think most sensible people say that's awful that the parents are anti-vax. And yet, this is kind of the camel's nose in the tent. Because once you start letting grant these children all these rights to disobey their parents on this one.
Children should have no rights.
Next thing you know, you're going to have like child divorce, right? From their parents.
Right.
Right?
Harrison.
So, I'm against rights.
Girl, look, we're going to go down this road. Maybe this is the answer, is that if the libs end up granting voting rights to children, maybe the conservatives need to take a bigger...
You can tell how much we like this topic.
And
that we've now moved completely.
I could have had some input, from the rest of the team.
Sorry. TLDR.
Thank you, Sonny Bunch.
Say something about it then, if you really...
Well,
let Harrison
hold
finish.
on. I'm giving a writer perspective here. And... I was thinking that the counterpoint to allowing the children to vote is that maybe the conservatives need to take a peek at the animals, and maybe let the animals vote, because
maybe
as
animals
you said,
are conservative. Yeah.
Well, as you said, look at that picture of Beto's dog. Clearly not an endorsement.
Yeah, not a liberal.
And if you look at the values that most
Not
of
a communist.
most of the domesticated animals in this country have, they're pretty conservative.
Yeah, I don't think cats would be liberal.
They love routines. Cats love individual rights. We know those are pretty much libertarians.
And they're predators.
Yeah, absolutely. Predators. They love, and dogs love hunting. They love guns. Like, think about this stuff.
Wow.
Like the animals are the conservatives.
You convinced me now.
Sonny.
I love the chicken story because it's terrifying. These chickens are learning how to become predators. We need to kill all the chickens and eat them and consume their power.
Don't we do that?
I like that.
We need to absorb their power by eating.
We're not doing it enough, according to studies.
So what we're saying is McDonald's needs to do like we need to go to a 40-piece McNugget, is what you're saying.
Murder chicken McNugget.
So many good ideas on the show today, guys. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today's edition of Right and Writer. I'd like to give a special thanks to our producer, LB Ford, of course, our Free Beacon guests, Matthew Continetti, Aaron Harrison, and Victorino Mattis. Remember, find us on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Just search for Free Beacon. Please subscribe, tell your friends, and leave a positive review. Like listener N4BPP, who says, a refreshing, informative podcast with a panel that knows their stuff. It's fun.
He was listening to the wrong show.
Keep up this fine first-class podcast. Until next time.